Hi, guys. I think I'm live. It says that I am, and I hope that I am. So, for today, I am super, super stoked because I have talked to a lot of people in my audience. And they've been feeling stuck in the side hustle that they're in. They've been overwhelmed by burnout, or they were just searching for that one thing that was going to guarantee them the time freedom that they have been craving so much, especially if they are trying to also be a present wife, mom, dad, friend, or obviously just a human doing your own stuff that you want to be doing. So, if that sounds like you, if that resonated with you at all, this is a conversation that you have been needing to hear. Because your business can completely transform in just a few months with the strategies that I am going to be talking about today with a very special guest. Today, I'm sitting down with Emily, my good friend, aka Ecom Emily on Instagram. If you have not looked her up in the past, highly, highly recommend you get in touch with her. She is a mom of two who has built over $275,000 in Etsy sales through POD, print on demand, and digital products in 2024 alone, earning $100,000 in almost $100,000 in profit. On top of that, at the start of this live stream, she's also made over $40,000 freelancing this year as well. So she basically took the skills that she had in her Etsy shop and started making services that she could sell to clients worldwide. Together, her Etsy and freelancing businesses have helped her crush a $300,000 year in 2024, which is even more than I personally made this year. And if you guys have ever watched me before, you know that I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And today is absolutely no different. Today, we're going to be breaking down exactly how she hit these goals in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and add Miss Emily to the stage. Hi, lady.
Hi. Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited too. It looks like we have a couple of people already in. We've got about 12 people watching us. That's exciting because
Yay.
sometimes you just really, it might be one. It might be me
I'm
and Emily.
and I'm happy to do that too. So,
Exactly. We're good friends on Instagram anyways. Like we've actually been working together since I want to say like February or March of this year,
mhm,
something like that. So
earlier
just
this
been in
year.
each other's circle. So I will more than happily just talk to you, but it looks like we do have a couple peeps. And I also have Shannon. She's like, I'd wave if you could see me. We also do have some people in the chat as well. So before we dive in, for anybody who is watching this live, I can see the chat. So if you have anything you want to ask Emily, if you have anything you want to get from me, do not hesitate to pop it in the chat, pop it in the comments. And of course, if you are watching this video on replay as well, pop any questions, comments, concerns, good of the order stuff in the comment section of this video. I'm also going to try to leave around 10 to 15 minutes at the end for a live Q&A. So if you guys have anything for us, feel free to let us know. And if you are like me and you forget things easily, pop them in the chat and then I will star them while we get up to that section. So with that said, I am excited, so excited to get to hear from Emily, learn more about her story. I've got so many questions that I want to give you today. She has been prepped a little bit, but I am going to catch her off guard a little bit on this live too, guys. So I hope you are excited as I am. The first thing I want to do is just get to know you, Emily. Obviously, I know you a lot, but there's also a lot more to learn. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you first got started on Etsy, and why was that the side hustle that you chose?
Yeah, I love that question. So, my what I call my side hustle journey was about October 2 years ago, so 2022, and my daughter was getting ready to start kindergarten that following year, and like many people, I was doom scrolling at like 2 in the morning, just anxious, nervous, like wondering and seeing all these videos of people who are making money online. You know how it is on Instagram, TikTok, all these places. And, it's you kind of have to sort through what's legit and what's not. But looking through that, I kept thinking, all these people are doing this. They have time freedom, they're earning extra money. Surely there's got to be something out there that
Some
I can
validity.
do. Yes. And my whole background is in education. I have been an educator since I graduated from college, mostly working on college campuses, but then also more recently in public school K 12 setting. And so I'm a huge like passionate person about education. And I had always just kind of resigned myself like that was going to be my career path forever and ever. I wasn't going to make very much money, and this is what it was going to be. And then I started again kind of going down the rabbit hole of these videos. And I first started by trying to, and I was selling on Amazon. I was selling products, reselling products that I was purchasing, say at Walmart or other places, and selling them on Amazon. And I picked it up pretty quickly. I was enjoying it, but then I also very quickly
Mhm.
realized that it was not going to be a long term fit for me because it required a lot of physical work. It required a lot of inventory. And as a mom and a wife, it required a lot of capital upfront and spending money to make money. And it got to the point where it was like, if I was going to grow a lot more doing that, I was going to have to feel more comfortable spending a lot of money up front. And I didn't want to have that risk involved with my children and their future and everything else that comes
Totally.
with that. So one day I was on YouTube just watching videos about Amazon, and I came across selling print on demand on Etsy,
Mm.
and I was like, this feels way too good to be
Mhm.
true. So I'm just going to, and I have no graphic design experience, but I do really enjoy working in Canva.
Mhm.
I enjoy creating things. I've always enjoyed crafting, things like that. And so I was learning, okay, so I can make a design, I
Mhm.
can put it on this product that I never see, and then
Right.
like someone will pay me for it. That sounds great. So I, as a January 2023 New Year's resolution, I
Mhm.
decided, okay, I'm going to dive into this. And that is really where all of that started.
Amazing. And so you mentioned print on demand, but
Yes.
you also do digital products as well.
Yes.
When did you integrate? Did you like do really, really well on POD and was like, oh shoot, this is working. Let me try to do digital? Did you do them at the same time? What was that like?
I am, and I'll probably say this a few times today, I'm a big fan of taking things one step at a time. So I did print on demand first from January until about August.
Okay.
And then in August, September, I decided, okay, this is going really well. Is this a fluke, or do I
Mm,
think I could open another shop and really be able to do the same thing there? And I opened a shop. It was about, like I said, August, September of last year. And I pretty quickly realized, oh,
mm.
I'm already
Not a
making
fluke.
daily sales. I can do this. So I built up my digital shop. And that was, again, really mostly Q4 of last year that I
Yep.
was spending time in there. So I did do them separate. I'm a firm believer in learning one thing at a time
Mhm.
so that your focus can really be invested
Mhm.
there. And I think that's what allowed me to scale both of those shops
I
was
love it.
being able to focus my energy and attention.
And perfect segue into the rest of the conversation because you did the exact same thing the following year.
Yes.
You got digital where it should be. And then you decided to get into consulting to helping other people do that. And then you decided to get into servicing, right? So I
Yes,
love that. And that's the exact same way that I went. And I mean, I'll be honest, there are probably some people that disagree with us
for
in
sure.
that, where they're like, just get as much as you can out there as fast as you can. And I sometimes can fall into that like shiny object syndrome trap myself, but at the same time I personally like to like I want to get on Upwork and I want to perfect that and I want to have inbound leads coming to me. And then I'm going to get on Fiverr and I'm going to perfect that and I'm going to have inbound leads coming to me and then I'm going to get on YouTube and so on and so forth. So I really really love I feel like our strategies were aligned in that in our business. Did it maybe take us longer than somebody else? Potentially. Did we do it better? Also potentially, you know? So I love, love, love that that was the strategy that you had as well. That is the exact same framework and timeline that mine has run. And look where we are now on this call today,
Yay.
talking about a $250,000 and a $300,000 a year within a year and a half to 2 years. So, I mean, that's flipping huge. So, congrats, first of all, to
Thank
that. Obviously, her strategy works. Her
you.
timeline works. Okay. So with that said, my thing, like, we talked a second ago that you expanded. You started in POD, just looking for not a way out per se, but like a way in, right?
Mhm.
A way into the side hustle culture, the global gig economy, etc.
Yep.
So we found that first, and then we're like, ooh, that worked. How can we do that again? Let's see if we can perpetuate it into digital. And then let's see if we can perpetuate it into consulting and freelancing. So what led you to figure out that is what you wanted to do? because you came to me, I want to say February or March or so,
Mhm.
and you were already having such a successful business. And I mean, 100K profit is something to write home about, especially if you can do that every year. That's life changing money, right?
Yeah.
So, plus you have a part time job at the time, right?
Yeah.
So, what made you be like, I think I can help others, and let's figure out the way how to do that? What does that look like for you?
It was honestly very organically. I had created an Instagram account for Amazon. When I had started selling on Amazon, it was
Mhm,
recommended to me by some other female sellers, oh, create an Instagram
mhm,
specifically for Amazon. So I did that. I was kind of networking with Amazon sellers, trying to learn. And I started posting in my stories a little bit or on my timeline about Etsy.
mhm,
And there was a small group of people. I am not I was not an influencer. I had a couple hundred followers, but
mhm,
small group of people that started asking me, "Oh my gosh, how are you doing that?" And then when Q4 hit last year and my sales were crazy,
mhm,
I was posting just again, just naturally, just
mhm.
saying like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane."
Yeah.
And I had a lot of Amazon sellers or other side hustlers
Mhm,
reaching out, kind of inquiring. And so in January of this year, I thought, okay, well, I am an educator.
mhm.
I am passionate and thrive in educating, helping, mentoring, guiding. I've been a supervisor and a manager for
Right.
gosh knows how many years now. So I really enjoy that element. And when I started doing the consulting, it honestly wasn't even to make money, if I'm
Mhm.
being completely honest.
Yep.
I really just enjoy selling on Etsy and I can see the potential. And I'm really passionate too about helping anyone who wants to start a side hustle,
Mhm,
but especially women who are caretakers of any kind, whether it's children or
mhm,
parents, working women, people who are looking to find that right side hustle that maybe they haven't been able to find. Again, the internet is a vast
mhm. Yep.
it's a black hole of all the
Right.
different side hustles out there. And so I thought, well, if I can help a few
Mhm,
people, be able to make an income, whether that's $500 a month or $5,000 a month, then I would be happy. So that's really how it all started. But this was a whole new world of, the consulting. Etsy, I was doing on my own. No one, my shops are not public. And so no
mhm.
one knows I'm a faceless Etsy
Right.
seller.
Mhm.
And so this was kind of a shift for me into
Face.
having my face out there,
Yep.
which is not my comfort zone. So that's really just how it started was that organic interest and sharing my story and
Mhm.
people were wanting to learn more about it.
Love it. So what transitioned you from that into wanting to offer services almost
Mhm.
you mentioned faceless a second ago, and that word is so annoyingly sexy right now because
Yes.
everyone wants to like make passive income without showing their face, right? But there is an entire world in the freelancing space that truly is faceless that doesn't have to equal content at all, right? So
Yes.
can you go a little bit into what led you from consulting into I'm going to start offering like done for you services for people, but you're still always under that umbrella of helping that end small business owner themselves?
Yes. So as I was thinking about the future, like I said, I have my kids and my family, and it was always in the back of my head that I didn't want to rely, if I were ever going to do this full time, that I wanted to diversify my income
Mhm,
streams. And I wanted to make sure that they were coming from different sources so that I always had a little bit of a safety net. So if something were ever to go, if my sales were ever to decrease on Etsy, that I had some other income coming in from other different places,
mhm,
and vice versa. And so that's when, I started working with you and trying to determine because I would not call myself a content creator. I'm not, I
I
am
would.
I,
Now at
I
least.
I am I like to joke I'm a little bit of a geriatric millennial who's like not I'm becoming that person. Like I'm just not
That's amazing.
I don't create the aesthetic like reels or
Mhm,
anything like that. So I knew that that wasn't my wheelhouse even though I enjoy sharing information out there. It wasn't
Mhm.
something I was like aspiring to do per se, but I love working one on one with
Mhm.
clients. And whether that's someone who wants to propel their Etsy shop and take it to the next level in kind of a coaching capacity in that way, or it's an actual business owner themselves and I'm helping provide services to, again, help them grow their business. And those things don't require me
Mhm.
to have my face all over the internet, right?
Right,
So
right.
it's nice, and I get a lot of fulfillment from doing that because you do see the impact that you're having. And
Mhm.
so it's great because I have my own business that I'm working in and I'm striving, to meet my goals there, but I'm also feeling like I'm providing the same thing for other business owners and supporting them. And, I don't only work with female business owners, but at the
Mhm.
moment, I only work with female business
Nice.
owners. And I love just supporting other small businesses. And again, personally, for myself, it's also that income diversification. So I
Mhm.
have streams of income coming from different places.
Love it. And something, just so you guys know, something that Emily and I did, they probably you probably like, okay, but like how do we transition into that?
Yeah.
Something that we did together was I asked her straight up, this was again probably February or so. I asked her the question of like, what do you do in your own Etsy shops that generate success? And then we literally wrote down like 50 different things. And we're talking, the right thumbnails, the right mock-ups, the right listing descriptions, the right keywords, blah, 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 right? All those different things that we know should go in there. And then I'm like, cool, how do we turn those into services? And that's exactly what she did. So she's offered strategies. She's offered keyword research for people. She's offered, obviously, like we discussed earlier, consulting in general. She actually even did some mock-up photos for me in my own business. So this is probably what you guys might have seen, like was actually from her hand in Canva. So even as small as making branded graphics for someone's Etsy shop that they could use forever, optimizing an Etsy shop from scratch and then letting them run with it. Like she has been able to take those 50 different things that she was already doing successfully in her own business twice in two different locations, POD and digital. And then we basically just wrote all of those down and figured out, sounds good. How in the world can we do this for somebody else? And she's been able to do almost 50 grand additionally this year by offering those things. So if you guys are in the exact same boat, maybe you're not on Etsy. I'm not even on Etsy anymore. Maybe you're not on Etsy. Maybe that's not what you're trying to do, but you're trying to take your current skill set and apply it to something else or apply it to be able to, like she said, serve your ideal customer. I would highly encourage you guys to do that. Maybe you're also in a 9 to 5. Like Emily, you have a part-time job right now, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm still in my part-time job.
And so it's totally okay if you do as well. I have another client that makes a buttload of money on TikTok every year, and she has a full-time job. So if you guys are in that exact same boat and you're wanting to diversify, just like Emily, you're wanting to potentially go a different direction, but you don't know how yet, I highly, highly recommend think about the things that you're doing on a weekly basis right now, whether it be in your current business or in your current 9 to 5, in your job description, in your role right now. Write down 50 things that you do. And then I can almost guarantee you at least 98% of them, someone is way more than willing to buy from you. So just keep that in mind because that's exactly how Emily has built her business, how I built mine, and how thousands of other people in the freelancing space have done the same. So I think that perfectly also segues me, Emily, into that's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot to manage, right? Like from experience, like
Yes.
I know content creation itself could be a whole business. That is what you spend 100% of your time in. But you also have two successful, hugely successful, two different types of Etsy stores as well. So it's very, very different the amount of work you have to put in for digital versus POD. You have to kind of like switch your brain on and off for each of them, right?
Mhm.
Plus, you're a present mom and wife. Plus, you are also, we're going to talk about this in a second. She also works for this really awesome company, which, by the way, if she didn't start freelancing, she might have never joined
Yeah.
into this. So that's freaking cool. We'll talk about them in a second. But you got a lot of stuff going on, right? So,
Yes.
how do you stay organized? How do you manage your time, especially knowing you do have a part time role
Mhm.
completely outside of all of this? Are there any specific tools, routine, time management? Like, how could someone that might be in a full-time or a part-time that wants to replicate your process, how do you manage your time right now?
It's a great
Mm.
question. I definitely have some tools, and I would like to say it really depends what part of this journey we're
Mhm.
looking at, right? So last
Mm.
year, for the bulk of the year, most of my time was spent just solely focused on Etsy. And I think what I did last year was, and I listen, I'm not a huge fan of on Instagram all these posts about like make no excuses, all of
Mm.
that.
I got
But I
hella
will
excuses.
I was gonna say, but I will say that I realized last year that I did have time. It
Mhm.
was just being spent maybe
Yeah.
on I love reality television, for example.
Oh,
I spend a
totally.
lot of time watching Bravo.
I love
And
it.
what I learned is that I could use that time more efficiently. And so I could still watch Bravo, but I could be doing Etsy research or I could
Mhm.
be
That's a good idea.
multitasking. And I learned that I did have more time. Did I stay up late some nights?
Mhm.
That kind of thing, really digging in because I was determined to make this work. Yes.
100%.
But there is life also, right? I have kids, all of
Mhm.
that. But this year looks a little bit different. So because I spent that whole year really building Etsy out entirely, Etsy requires a lot less time now. I have periods, so I might have weeks where I'm heavily focused on publishing new listings, and that's going to look a little bit different. And so it really kind of depends on that season. But because I built those up, what's great about POD and digital products is that once you get them to that place, it's more maintaining customer responses, any personalized orders, things like that. So typically, what a day looks like for me is I am a morning person. I do get up at 5 a.m. I'm that annoying person that gets up really early. And I do spend an hour working mostly just on my Etsy shops first thing in the morning, and
Yeah.
I will process my orders, I will respond to customer messages. I will basically do anything that doesn't require too much brain power, but is a non-negotiable for that day, which processing orders and responding to customers is a non-negotiable. So I start there and then my kids get up, we go to the bus, go to daycare drop off, all of that. And I work from 8 to 12 in my part time job. And then from about 12 till my daughter gets off the bus at 3 o'clock, that time it really varies, but that's typically when I'm doing my freelance work. So, in addition, I am also a Pinterest manager as part of my
Right.
freelancing.
Mhm.
So I did get some extra training on how to manage Pinterest accounts for businesses. So typically, I will do some of my Pinterest work after lunch, after a walk, and then whatever else needs to get done during that time. And then depending on the day, if my daughter has swim team practice, I will take my laptop. I'm going to be
Mhm.
sitting there for an hour and a half
Yeah.
and I'm able to respond to emails or respond to messages or respond to a coaching client. And so it allows me that flexibility to work on my own time, which is really great and that's always what I've wanted. I love working.
Mhm.
I just like the ability to work on my own schedule,
Totally.
which is nice, which is what I enjoy about this. So, one tool that I do use that I will recommend, I live by it now, is I do use Asana for everything. I set up, I am a type A firstborn daughter. I set up on
Mhm.
Monday what my week looks like which Pinterest accounts need to be managed, what days, what client work needs to be done, if there are specific things I want done, and I sort them by day and I check them off as I go. And I even will put anything down from like post on social media,
Interesting.
write my newsletter, every little thing that needs to be done. And Asana has been like a lifesaver for me. And I know there's a lot of different tools, but that's been one that's been really helpful.
Beautiful. So you mentioned a second ago that there were some things that, like, were you prioritizing your time appropriately?
Mhm.
You mentioned obviously watching, Bravo or whatever it was, right? So my question is, and this is not on the list of things that I gave her, so I am putting you on the spot a little bit here, but was there anything in your business that was taking too much time that should not have been prioritized as high as you might have done during your first year? Because I know that was a struggle that I had, and I know it's probably something that people watching this video might be struggling with as well, figuring out what should go first. I love the idea of using Asana, Trello, Notion, etc.
Mhm.
But how do you even prioritize on which days what gets the priority?
So last year, I would say one thing I probably would have done different is I continued selling on Amazon even until recently. And I think that was more of a I don't want to be a quitter. I don't want to quit this. And I think when you and I worked together, we talked a lot about
Mhm.
the ROI of your time.
Yep.
And I was just spending way too much time doing that. And I wasn't getting the return that I
Mm.
really should be getting for the amount of time I was putting in. So I think one thing I would have done is just be okay stepping away from something that is not working for me. It was working enough, but it
Mhm.
wasn't. If I had spent the time I spent there on creating new Etsy listings, I could have made even more or had even more sales or
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's something I've learned is like be okay stepping away from something that's not either fulfilling you or it's not a good return on your time, something like that.
I love that.
Now, my priorities a lot of times are more based, like I said, on kind of that non negotiable element. So there are certain things like I know now at this point what things have to be done every day or
Mhm.
have to be done every week. I organize my client work on dates. I notate every date on my Asana, like this needs to be done on this date, this needs to be done on this date,
Mhm.
deadlines, anything like that. I really just put it all there because it's too much to keep in your head. Um, and so I would say, like, as almost 2 years into this, I probably can do that better than I probably did a year ago. Now it's kind of like, okay, this is not bringing me joy or this is not giving
Mhm.
me the return I need. So we're just going to stop this and we're going to focus on these areas. I think the other thing too is I'm at a place now where I'm not trying to grow, 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 grow. Like I'm I'm feeling really content. There's new things I want to be doing and there are new things that I am working on, but I'm not trying to constantly be getting new clients or
Mhm.
constant like I'm in a really good spot. I want to have sustainable growth.
Right.
I want
Good
to
maintenance place.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I am not someone who's ever wanted to build a brand, I would say in terms of hiring people and I'm not
Mhm.
saying I won't hire help, but I don't wanna hire, like, a staff, and I don't wanna have, like, a whole enterprise that I'm managing.
Mhm.
That's just not something that personally I have had a desire for. So, I'm kind of in this place now where I'm really trying to learn how to manage and prioritize what's currently on my plate, and I use this analogy a lot of, like, pots on the stove.
Mhm.
So,
Which one's the hottest?
you have yeah, and then,
Mhm.
like, I'm stirring one, and then
Mhm.
one is kinda simmering in the back, and I that might be my Etsy shops, and then every few weeks, I'm gonna move that one to the front, and I'm gonna let that one boil, I'm gonna
Right.
spend more time there. So, it's really just a game of balancing that, but I will go back to I think the only reason that's been possible, at least for me personally, is because I added in one thing at a time.
Mhm. Agreed.
It would have been really hard, I think, for me to do that from day one and have 4 or 5 different things I was doing. I think the only way it's really been successful is layering those in.
Sweet. I love that. And I also love you're actually teaching me something right now because I or just reminding me it's something that I very much so know, but I suck at it personally because we are one man bands, right? Of course we could outsource. Of course I could call my sister. She's doing some things for me tomorrow. She's a freelancer as well. I could call my mom. She's a freelancer as well, etc. But it really is us. Like we
Yep.
are the face of the brand. We are the movers of the needle, right? So my biggest problem in my own business is and it's funny because I think that you just said the same thing for you is you write out the to-do list for clients
Mhm.
and I suck at the non-negotiables for my own business. So
Yes.
I will push off like YouTube is a non-negotiable right now. I got to do it because I want to do it. Like this is my like you said what are we focused on this quarter? This is it, right? But when it comes to like sending emails, that should happen as a non negotiable on a weekly basis to build and engage with my community. I will literally accidentally go 6 weeks without sending an email. And then I'll be like, hey guys, it's me.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we last talked, you know? So
Yep.
I love that you said that like you look at these, hot stove items because I do the exact same thing. But I also want to caution everyone watching this, including myself, that we, in my opinion, we are our best and most important client, first and foremost, whether that be mental health wise. If you've watched any of my journey, I obviously struggle with that every single day. So if I do not focus on me first sometimes and set myself as a priority in some way or, fashion every day, my second priority, aka my clients, will falter. Like something will go wrong.
Yep.
And then the second piece to that as well is, what things should you be doing in your own business? Again, non-negotiable. So I think something that I did, if someone, what we try to do with these live streams is obviously give you guys some inspiration, but most importantly, I call them like knowledge nuggets that you could take and apply today. So I love what Emily said a second ago. I'm going to piggyback off of that with a little thing that I did. And I don't have not perfected it at all, but it's something that I personally did last year that really, really, really helped in 2024. Was I did a time study on myself for about 10 business days. So 5 days, 1 week, 5 days the next. And I basically just put down like what I did every hour or what I did for the 3-hour block that I was working. And at the end of the time study, I took all of those things. So the same way that we talked about Emily splitting up all the things that she does into a list of 50, I did the same concept with a time study, and I took it and I put Leslie has to do it, someone else could do it, or a software can do it. And that one thing changed my life and changed my business forever, where I actually made more income, more revenue, and more profit this year than I did last year by working less hours. And it was simply by utilizing those two things. Can someone else do this, or can a software help me do it? Even if it's as simple as Asana being the software, like reminding my ADHD brain that I have things to do, So if you guys are interested in doing the time study on yourself, it is a very interesting exercise, and it will really show you, like Emily said, where are you putting your time and is it on the right pots? So I hope that helps you guys on your journey as well. So with that said, I'd like to kind of transition a little bit. I know we have a couple of Etsy sellers on here right now.
Yeah.
So I would like to transition a little into the Etsy space. So it's obviously Q4, but it's also obviously almost the end of Q4. We're halfway through, but as you and I know, and everybody else watching this theoretically should also know, probably not wanting to put Q4 stuff up right now necessarily, unless of course you're a digital product seller where people are buying that kind of stuff leading up until Christmas Day, leading up until the new year, etc.
Right.
I want to talk evergreen. I want to talk annual plan. Is there any insider tips? And I know you have them because you've given them to me, but are there any insider tips that you have for staying competitive on Etsy, whether they're brand new and they feel hopeless? Like you and I actually were talking about some Etsy groups that we're in that feel kind of hopeless sometimes because people are like, I'm just getting started. There's no hope for me to do anything to succeed, blah, blah, blah. I've put up 1,000 listings. No one's buying them, whatever. Do you have any insider tips that you have personally used in your own business, of course, that you're comfortable sharing with me and my community, that could kind of overcome that hopelessness a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question because I was just doing a little research. I was compiling some data. So I am also a coach in the Gold City Ventures
Mhm.
group. Gold City Ventures is an Etsy coaching community, and there's a, printable e-printables course. Just to plug, we will be launching a POD
Woohoo.
course very shortly. But I was doing some research for that to show that new shops are having a lot of success. And I was watching a video yesterday of a seller who started after I did and has already hit like $300,000 in revenue. So it is, I always like to say, like, it is absolutely possible. And I am seeing in the data, I use Everbee for most of my research and looking at new products every week, newer shops that are under a year old, under 6 months old, and they are having success.
Nice.
Now, that success might look different for everyone, but I am seeing new shops have regular sales and bring in consistent sales in their shops.
Love it.
One thing I'm seeing is there is still so much opportunity to make sales. If you're doing print on demand, make sales with apparel, right? T-shirts, things like that. What I would say is that it's really, really important to narrow down. And that's one of my tips and my strategies is to think about how can you make that design, even if you're selling in a more saturated area like t-shirts, how can you narrow down your designs to a more specific customer? So I always joke, some people might look at some of my products and be like, wow, that's really oddly specific. And you would be surprised that it sells every day.
Mhm.
Because if you are that one specific
Mhm.
person, then you are like lit up when you see that show up on Etsy. And I have been that customer where you're
Same.
looking for something really unique, for a friend or a coworker or a relative, and you find it and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I could never find this at Target. I could
Mhm.
never find this at Walmart." The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to try things that are not t-shirts or not sweatshirts, things like that if you are doing POD, because I will be honest, a lot of where I'm seeing success is what I would call like giftable products, which
Mhm.
are products that someone will buy as a gift for someone else. And a lot of times that's not apparel because you
Mhm.
don't know that person's size. And so there's a lot of great opportunities through Printify with print on demand to find some of these unique giftable products. And what I love about that is they don't some of them don't require a ton of graphic design. You can do text-based designs. You could do just very simple designs, and again, if they kind of speak to that unique customer, then that's going to be huge for them. So I yesterday published, I think, 10 listings on Etsy. I was having a creative like
Mhm.
flow day. And I have about a list of 20 more that I want to publish just based on researching one day. So there's so many nuggets out there, so many pockets of opportunity. And I think it's reframing the mindset that there are opportunities and it's just learning how to find them. And that takes time. I could sit down again yesterday, research for 20 minutes and have a list of 30 things I want to design, but I'm also almost 2 years into this. I could not have done that a year or a year and a half ago. And so I think it's those that are kind of willing to trudge through those waters and like learn and keep watching videos, keep watching content, learn from other sellers, then that's going to help. So I know that was a lot of different information there, but
Mhm.
that's kind of where my mindset is at.
No, I love that. So you obviously have been doing this for almost a full 2 years,
Mhm.
in 2 different locations. And when I say locations, I mean type of seller, right?
Yeah.
So she's in POD and digital. So you saw that something was working in one. I
Mhm.
Again, this isn't on the list, but I'm just interested. Did you
Yeah.
apply the same concepts or niches from POD to digital, or did you create an entirely different thing focused on an entirely different group of people?
Funny enough, it was totally different. It's a knit. So I will say this, my print on demand shop is what I think people would call a more general
Mhm,
shop. So I sell in a lot of different niches. I sell mostly a couple product lines, but the designs are geared towards a lot of different
mhm,
niches. Now I have some that are more prominent than others, but generally it's pretty broad. My digital shop, I was going to go in that direction. And then one of the products that I posted ended up kind of taking off
mhm.
and it sparked this idea like, oh, duh, I should do more of that. And
Nice,
so my digital shop is completely niche down
nice.
to one niche customer, et cetera. So I have tried both and
Mhm.
both are working.
Yeah,
So
very cool.
I think it's all about that emotional connection to the
Mhm,
customer. So like when they see something in my POD shop, they're like, "Oh, I've never seen anything like that before. Oh, that speaks right to me." And then in my digital shop, it's kind of the same thing. I would say I sell a lot of resources and printables and things that speak to that customer that they can't find other places. And again, I will say like I am not an expert graphic designer. I have had now a lot of experience on Canva, so my designs are a lot better than they used to be, but I think it's all about kind of creating that experience for a customer that they just can't find somewhere else.
Man, that is the perfect sentence to apply to this entire conversation because you're doing 3 different things, give or take, right? So we're
Yeah.
doing consulting, we're doing freelancing of done for you services for brands across the world, and we're also hosting 2 Etsy shops. And what you just said, being able to provide that, unique experience that they can't get anywhere else is so applicable to all 3 of those things. Like today, just as a weird little analogy for you guys, I got an inbound lead on Instagram for a really quick UGC video. It was like $400, something small, just knock it out in a couple days. It's 30 seconds long. It's nothing crazy. A brand new person, never met them in my life. And I just was going back and forth with them on DM. I gave them the script really quickly. And it's just like Emily said, that's just my process. That is just what I've built this whole time that I've been doing it to make my life personally easier. And they responded back with, this is, like script is approved, but also PS, thank you so much for your promptness and your like reply time. I've reached out to a bunch of people on Instagram and you're the only person that has been this. And it's like Emily said, experiential. So there is a way to apply that exact same concept for who you want your customers to be in an e-commerce sense, who you want your audience to be for a personal brand on social media, who you want to help with services through a faceless type of brand. Like that is the reason why I built this YouTube channel and this community in general. Is paid content creator could literally be like 1,000 different things. You could get paid without ever showing your face, or you could get paid just like we are. Well, I'm getting paid as my own business, but but we are here showing our faces, right? So there are so many different ways that you could go about it. But that is, I honestly should change the title of this video to be, no matter what it is, like you have to provide an unparalleled, unique experience for them so that they come back as a customer and buy something else, or they come back as a client, or, which has happened to Emily, they refer you to other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you really, really start to expand, whether it be a customer on Etsy or a client on Upwork. So I love that. I'm going to change the title. I've decided that this is perfect. So then my next question really quickly is, whenever you decided to go into the digital space, I know we're doing two different things. We're in two different niches. I can never get that word right. I'm trying to copy you. Niche.
Niche. I think you could say either niches.
I get so much flack on the Everbee YouTube. By the way, guys, if you heard her mention that, I am the YouTube creator for Everbee, but that's not what this is. But I get so much flack on those videos for how I say it, and I just started owning it. It's niche in my book, so
Yeah.
I'm just now trying to copy you and say it correctly. I can't do it. But anyways, we know that you are in two different niches, whatever. But was there a moment in time or a strategy that you saw take off that expanded your income in one or both of those shops, where you're like, ooh, I got to double down on this? And maybe that's something that you've taken into your everyday.
Yeah. I think I remember one very vivid moment, and I don't know if this will answer the question exactly, but it was when I was just doing print on demand and I tested a new product type. And again, I had been doing t-shirts, things like that. And I was like, I feel like there's some opportunity here because again, I started thinking about, what do I gift to other people? What do I buy on Etsy? And so I tried this new product and it was the most simple design. It was more of just me testing how this was going to go, testing the mock-ups, all of that. And it sold that night. And I remember thinking, what in the world? And I was like,
Insane.
yeah, I was like, okay, well, we're going to do more of that. And I think it was kind of being willing to test. I am a huge fan of I always tell clients I'm working with, just test it, like, especially on Etsy, because it's such a low stakes environment on Etsy. If I've told people before, what's the worst thing that could happen? You publish the listing, you spend 20 cents, and if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. And that's that. And at the end of the listing time, you can always reassess if you want to change it or just let it expire. And so I feel like that has served me really well in just testing. And like, I've never done I don't want to say I've thrown spaghetti at the wall, because everything has been well researched and I've always had a reason why I'm testing things. But I remember just like testing that new product and being like, oh, duh, this makes so much sense. I'm going to do more of it. And I think what I learned from that is that doubling down on that and doing more of it and really going in that direction and following the numbers. I was getting views, I was getting sales. Okay, we're going to keep doing more of that. And then I carried that into my digital shop. So, like I said, I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go. And then I had something that started selling and I followed the data and I just was like, yep, we're going to just hone in on that and we're going to stick with that. And then I was having daily sales within a month. So I think it's really being open to what the data is telling you. I'm a very numbers driven. It's interesting because I'm a relational person, but I'm also very logical or numbers focused. So if I'm seeing certain things in my Etsy stats, then I'm going to just like keep going and pushing on that until there's really not much more to go and then I'll try something else. So I think it's being willing to read the numbers and follow that data.
Agreed. And the good thing is, again, that can literally apply to anything we're talking about
Yes.
today, right?
Yeah.
So you were on actually, I think you and one other person were the only people that I've, and this is not a good case study for me, I guess, but we're the only people that did it so quickly. She got on Upwork to become a freelancer, put her stuff out there. We followed the numbers. Data tells a story, numbers tell a story. We did that, and you were a top rated seller within less than 90 days. And
Mhm.
I was as well. Emily was, and one other person in my group has been as well. Everybody else did it really, really quickly after that, but you've been able to do it so fast, right? So being able to see what projects are doing well for you, being able to, let's just say, go on Fiverr, look at the analytics of each of the gigs and see, okay, I mean, I've done this. I wanted to be a voiceover artist for the longest, and I am, but like not to the extent that I would really love. But I have, everyone says like I have a news anchor voice, or I can, like I cut that on and off pretty easily. I also am really good. Not a lot of people know this, so little nugget. I'm also really good at like animated characters. So I could like be SpongeBob if I wanted to. I
That's
don't,
so
but
fun.
weird little knowledge tip of the day, weird unique fact about Leslie. So I had a voiceover thing. I had two of them on Fiverr. And I was so excited. And I was like, buy me. And no one did. Like literally, it was like all of my other gigs. What the numbers were telling me was this is what people want. Okay. So I pulled that back and then, like she said, doubled down on the things that were working. What's also really cool is for anybody, of course, we're talking about Amazon, we're talking about print on demand, we're talking about social media, even YouTube, for example. Like, I know if I were to just do this for myself, first of all, it would never work. But second of all, like I would just keep making things that you guys don't want. Or I would keep bringing on guests that are not helping you. So, what I do instead is I look at those numbers. Numbers tell a story, and I make decisions based on those numbers. So, if you guys are trying to maybe make some money through like TikTok shop, for example, and you're like posting a bunch of different products and you see one product, just like Emily said, one product and maybe one style of video or one length of video is doing really well for you guys. Sorry, it would be dumb to not do that again and again and again, at least just to retest that your initial test did work. So again, the best part about everything you're saying is it can literally be applied to all of the different ways that you've been able to build your business, which is fantastic news for everybody watching this as well. So with that said, I want to wrap up a little bit because there are a couple of questions in the comments. So I want to make sure that I can get to those, or we can get to those together. But my last little thing that I do want to hear from you is if you could share, we've already shared a lot, but if you could share one last final umbrella kind of piece of advice for Etsy sellers themselves or freelancers themselves or anybody that might be in a part-time job right now that just wants to be Emily, what would that be?
This is going to be so like vanilla, but I think what I have seen, so I've been in different groups, I've worked with different people, I've coached, I've been coached, all the things. And honestly, it's taking action and not being afraid to try things. So I feel like because I just took action on first on my Etsy shops, right?
Mhm.
And it was just focused action and I should say that focused action because
Mhm.
there's a lot of times like even my shiny object syndrome, it's like I have 100 things to do today and then I end up doing nothing and it's so focused action. And I think part of that is it is scary to try something new. It's scary to put yourself out there as a freelancer it's scary to post a listing on Etsy because you're just not sure. And what I always go back to is like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Mhm.
Number one, they won't respond to my, Upwork proposal, or they won't respond to my email, or no one buys this. Okay, well, again, I am for the most part faceless. So it's not like
True.
I'm knocking on their door and like they're
Right.
slamming the door in my face. And so I think just being willing to take action and keep your foot on the gas and follow that data so that you have that focused action
Mhm.
is so, so, so important. And again, like I said, I've been in a lot of groups, seen a lot of different paths and journeys, and they all look a little bit different. But the people that I have seen outside of myself be successful are those that do that. And they really just put pen to paper and they take the action. You can learn all day. There's so much content out there to learn, but without applying it to anything, you're really not moving the needle. And so I honestly, that's what I tell people all the time is like, that is like so key is just taking that focused action.
Yeah, and I think for me too, it's I always say it's like taking focused action on one side and then like learning comes from doing on
Yes.
the other side, you
Mhm.
know? So like you can learn really quick because I've tried so many side hustles myself until I found the one or the ones that worked for me. But if I didn't, I might still be I mean, I loved my job and I know you love your job too, but like
Yep.
I could have still been there had I
Yeah.
not just taken that first step. And I really do. I mean, I appreciate we still have about 15 to 20 people watching right now. So guys, love you. Thank you for
Yay.
being here. But at the same time, so grateful that you guys are here. But I know that I did that exact same thing myself for about 18 months where I knew I wanted something different, but I didn't know how to, like you said, what was that first step?
Yep.
And I just watched. Like there's so many YouTubers that are still big today, like Cassie Johnson, Heather from It's Heather Studio, Millie, Modern Millie. There were people that like I straight up would just walk on a treadmill for hours in the morning, just listening to them and not taking what they said and then doing it all over again the very next day. And it wasn't until I was like really kind of fed up with like what I had built for myself, which was just stagnancy, that I was like, screw it. Again, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
And a lot of great things happened to say the least. So
Yeah.
highly recommend for you guys as well. We do have a couple questions. I want to make sure this is a small one, Emily, so you should be able to be like yay or nay very quickly. Someone asked, what do you teach? She said her daughter teaches math. So what was the thing that like you kind of like gravitated towards in your career?
Yeah, I actually did more shocking, not shocking, the experiential learning pieces like outside of the classroom.
Nice.
So I worked on college campuses in housing, I did student government, oversaw fraternity and sorority life, and then most recently have worked at a publishing company. So we work to help teach and train educators to then teach in the classroom and teach
Sweet.
kids. So I have mostly been outside of the classroom doing the hands-on
Mhm.
involvement
It's
of it.
almost like teaching the teachers, even if it's just
Yeah.
like fraternity or Panhellenic or something,
Yes.
they're obviously impacting others. So it's kind of like teaching the teachers. I love that.
Yep.
Someone else, Isabel with intention, said, Emily, you have to start your own YouTube channel. We would love your content. So so get on out there. Or I can have you on multiple times, hopefully in the future as well. Mike also said, Emily coached me on Etsy and helped me grow my store. She is fantastic. So
Oh,
wanted to
thanks,
give
Mike.
you
Hi,
that
Mike.
little shout out. She also helped
Yeah.
me. So again, shout out her twice. And then Sweet Lolo Designs, I hope I'm saying that right, quote unquote, felt too good to be true. I think that mindset is what keeps stalling me from uploading any listings. I've done the research and I love to design, so I just need to, like we said, take the first step. I
Mhm.
wonder, it's not really a question, but I wonder if there's anything extra, little added, little bonus that we could give Sweet Lolo or anybody else that might have resonated with that message. But what is that first step? What does that look like for them?
I think like you, and I'm gonna kind of again then piggyback off what you were
Mhm.
saying, the
That's
learning
this
by
whole thing, just back and
the
forth. I love it.
the learning by doing.
Yep.
I will often laugh, and I'm happy, this might be an interesting video, to look back at some of my first listings.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I keep those in my expired listings and I will actually go back and look at them
Mm,
regularly.
cool.
And it gives you like a good chuckle because you're like, wow, I've come so far. But then at the same time, incredible how much growth you can have. So if we're speaking in this specific instance, Etsy, right? Like how much growth you can have from your first listing to your 50th listing to now, 1,000 listings or whatever later. And even now, listings that I created 6 months ago, I would do differently now. And so I think the one way to make that progress is to hit publish
Mm.
and then keep doing it and keep
Mhm.
doing it and keep doing it, because the more you practice in Canva or whichever design tool you're using, and the more you research and the more you create listings, the more comfortable you get. And the more comfortable you get and the more you learn, then you can make tweaks and you learn, oh, this font goes better with this type of design, or oh, I need to use these keywords instead of this. And that only happens by actually doing it. And I still pinch myself a lot. I'm like, is this too good? This is crazy, but it is possible.
Mm.
And my results are only my own, but there are a lot of newer shops out there that are making consistent sales. I am studying them all the time because it's a great way to show newer sellers it's still possible. Like this is still absolutely possible. And I think that doing piece is a huge part of that.
Agreed. And the good thing too, again, I'm gonna say it probably ad nauseum in this this talk together, is just hit publish on that TikTok video.
Yes.
Hit publish on that YouTube video, just hit publish on that Upwork project that you're trying to perfect and get it 100% where it needs to be so that you can guarantee people coming in. Just hit send on that email, just hit send on that Fiverr proposal. There's literally everything she's saying can be applied to anything that you're doing in your business. Just hit send on that I'm leaving notification email to your boss, like whatever you need to do. Just hit publish, just hit send. That also might be the new thumbnail that I make for this one because I love that, and that is 100%. I think I'm just delusional half the time, that I just assume that what I put out in the universe will come back and
Honest,
hit me, but just hit it.
okay, can I tell you, I also joke that like delusion is a key ingredient to success,
I love it.
because you kind of have to be a little bit delusional, because you can't be so worried about the rejection piece. Listen,
Mhm.
listen, we none of us want to be rejected. It's
Right.
hard. And it's hard. It's a big reason. I Full transparency, I struggle with social media.
Mhm.
It's a hard place, and there are certain things that we're all more comfortable with, but delusion is such a helpful thing. And again, it's kind of like that, well, what's the worst that could happen? I'm going to put this out into the universe and we're going to hope for the best. And I do think you have to have a dash of that to be able to keep moving the needle forward. And again, that cliche phrase, progress over perfection.
Mhm.
It's true. If you could I could stare at a listing for 6 hours and still find something wrong with it, but you have to just kind of keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I always say delusion is the solution.
Yes.
Delulu is the Salulu if
Yes,
you're a Gen
really,
Z like my sister.
exactly.
So fantastic. The only last thing that we have for today from Helen Zong is, where is the best place to find information about how to find pockets of opportunity on Etsy? Helen, if you haven't yet, I highly recommend. This is not a plug. I'm not getting paid for this. I just love them. But highly recommend go check out Everbee by all means. They are the one that Emily and I both use regularly on the daily. I also know, Emily, there's another one that you use that I believe starts with an I.
Yes.
Tell me about
Uh,
that one too.
yes, I also use Insight Factory is the
Yep.
name of it, and Insight Factory is really helpful for generating ideas, coming up with keywords that you might not have thought of otherwise. Everbee is my go-to for
Mhm.
research, but I do use Insight Factory here and there just to help generate some ideas.
So it's almost like Insight Factory, Chat GPT, whatever could be like the
Yes,
ideation space. And then you go to
correct.
Everbee or something to find those pockets potentially.
Correct.
Cool.
That's
Love it.
exactly
That's
what I
how I
did.
do it too. So
Yep.
that's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions we have today. We still have a handful of people hitting us
Yay.
up today. So I really appreciate you guys all being here. Really, really, really appreciate you. Emily, thank you for giving me your time this morning. Like I said, she's not getting paid to be here. So I hope you guys are enjoying this free value that she is giving on this channel. If you guys did love this video or this conversation, I really do really hope that you'll give us a little boop on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. I I will try to my best to get Emily back, first of all.
Yay.
But also, we will have at least one guest speaker on this channel every month who you can learn from for your own business. So, with that said, thank you guys all for joining today, and I will see you in the next one.